All right. Welcome into the second half draft show, episode 2, Drew. I am your host, Juice. And of course, if you're new to this particular show, what we're doing here is we're covering the 2023 NFL draft prospects, draft eligible players throughout the college football season. The draft itself is a year round process, so we're going to cover it year round, right? So I'm going to take a look back. I'm going to start by taking a look back to last week and some matchups that we keyed in on for specific prospects, how they fared, who balled, who didn't, you know what I mean, who helped themselves, who may not have helped themselves all that much, and then we'll look ahead to tomorrow's slate this Saturday. So Drew, your overall thoughts. Give me your overall thoughts in terms of what you've seen from some of these prospects to this point before we jump into the individual matchup.
You mean just overall?
Just what the quality of play that you're seeing on Saturdays.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, man. Football's back. I think that most of the matchups that we previewed were kind of as advertised. Some didn't mature like I thought they would, and others shined, and some others did exactly what I thought they would do. So it was fun. Saturday was fun, man. It was good. I wasn't didn't have food poisoning this Saturday, so I was able to get through most of the games. Had a little volleyball I had to do, but
sure. Obviously, you got to take care of home, but
yes.
Certainly plenty of football. So
yes.
Let's get into it. But before we start, one more housekeeping item.
Yes.
We promised you that CPGM Headley would be joining us this week, but he had a conflict. I'm gonna leave it at that. That's our guy. You know, we're eagerly waiting for him to jump on the live with us. So
he's eager. He's eager.
Yes, he is. He was in a pre-production meeting, and he was. We weren't focused per se, right? And Headley was letting us have it a little bit, giving us tidbits, giving us players. Hey, make sure you speak about such and such. So we're gonna try to do Headley proud. And let's start with the Alabama-Texas game, a highly anticipated game. I think it set Nielsen records in terms of the viewership associated with it. I mean, this just blew it out of the water, and we're talking about a 12 a.m. kickoff, about 12 p.m. kickoff, high noon kickoff. To have that kind of viewership for a non-primetime game is really unheard of. So, what were your overall impressions of the game? And then let's jump into some of the prospects that you thought performed well, and others maybe not so much.
The game was as advertised. Before I get there, real quick, just as y'all come through the door, wipe your take your shoes off. Don't even wipe.
Etiquette.
Take your shoes off. Hit the like button. Sit down and enjoy. No, the game was as advertised, man. I was a little upset that it was at noon, but I know that's the big money time, and I don't know. That's the biggest game since I don't know when at that time. So I mean. I hate when the refs have to get involved and make some calls I'm not okay with.
Mm-hmm.
But the game was it was as advertised, man. It was what I wanted to see. I didn't want to see anybody really get blown out. I wanted it to come down kind of to the wire, and that's
definitely
what it was, man. And that's exactly what it was. Big plays from both sides, defense and offense on both sides of the football.
What about the players specifically from Texas? Who stood out to you?
Bijan Robinson. I mean, I wish he would have touched the ball a little bit more.
You see him in the bottom right hand corner. Where is it? There you go. Down in the bottom right corner. There you go.
So get over there, right?
Yeah,
right
there he is.
Yeah, he's special, man. He's everything you want from the running back position. You're talking about hands. You're talking about vision. We talk about vision. You talk about the wiggle. You talk about the power that the speed, the power that he has, and he's not an easy guy to bring down, man. So he was special. We saw what Bryce Young can do, and I think when you look at Bryce Young, this is what separates him from CJ Stroud in terms of being able to make plays out of structure when things start to break down or things are not going well. He was able to make things happen because his receivers, I think they let him down a little bit this game. I think they may have found themselves a receiver in Jamari Gibbs. So I think he came from, was it UCF? It was one of them gold teams, UCF or Georgia State. There we go, Georgia. I couldn't think of it. But he surprised me a little bit because I was thinking more. I knew he could catch out the backfield, but I didn't know he could do that.
Yeah,
he was looking
really comfortable.
He
really comfortable. You know, we make a big fuss about Bijan Robinson and what he can do in the passing game, and rightfully so.
Right.
Absolutely. But I thought Gibbs, and just the feel for it, right? Staying alive. When Bryce Young had to ad lib and create, and to your point, that is exactly what's separating CJ Stroud. That kind of ice water in the veins. I think there was a coach who mentioned that. How did he put it? How did he put it? He said Bryce Young had the right nervous system.
Yo.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, somebody got to quote that, bro.
I'm telling you, I've never heard it put quite that way, but I mean, it's perfect because he was the engine. Texas, Gary Patterson, they were humming defensively. Of course, Quinn Ewers, the young quarterback, talented guy, he goes down early, so that took a little wind out of Texas' sails. But they battled, they competed for all 60 minutes. You know what I mean? And they came up a little short because of, to your point, Gibbs and Bryce Young, his ability to extend plays and create when something isn't there. You made a great point. Receivers didn't help him. By and large, his receivers didn't help him. You know what I'm saying? The offensive line got challenged. Texas challenged them up front. As far as Texas is concerned, I thought another offensive player, draft eligible, again, that's the focus. Jordan Whittington, I thought looked really good. He struggled to stay healthy. He's a senior, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
He's only played in, I think, about between 12 and 15 games over the course of his career. A former 5-star recruit, really talented guy. He can fly, he can make plays, on the perimeter, but he struggled to stay healthy. I thought he had a good showing. And then, of course, you go to the Alabama side, and we talk about some of the struggles of the offense, but a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. What do you think about those particular players?
Yeah, the one guy that stands out is the guy, is the first picked overall that's not going to be a quarterback, and Will Anderson. When it was time to shine and show up, he showed up, but throughout that game, bro, he was actually a problem, and I don't mean in a good way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Some of the stuff was just kind of like, what are you thinking? You know better than that. He had I don't know how many penalties he's had. It was crazy.
It was like 3, maybe 4. Concentration penalties. You know what I mean? Not necessarily aggression, but concentration penalties, which is a no-no. We talked about Will Anderson a lot last week, obviously going into this game, and I said, he could have a very good season and it be a letdown because of how ballyhooed, how highly touted he is, and this wasn't a great showing. But before I let you get to the rest of those Bama defenders, I just find it odd, and just want to get your thoughts on why is it that teams decide just randomly not to block Will Anderson as if he's not going to make a play?
Sometimes it's a mistake. I don't know how that's possible. His number. You key on him every at the snap when you're lining up at the beginning of the play, and then sometimes it's schemed that way. They're like, oh, we don't need to block him because he shouldn't be able to make this play. But if you're watching the tape, he can make the play. He's got this thing. It's called. I heard PFF give it a name.
A long arm.
Not long arm.
Not the long arm.
He's got he's got range in his tackle. You know what I'm saying he's able to get to plays that maybe, a guy similar with his ability, but
mere mortals can't necessarily make that play. But
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I can't, unless you're throwing a bubble screen to the other side of where he's not. I don't see a scenario where you can say, hey, we're just not going to block him. It doesn't make sense to me.
What about the second level defenders and then the secondary? Your thoughts on those guys?
Henry To'oTo'o is the guy, number 10. Listen.
I don't know if you saw Headley's comment, but he got ran over. Bijan put that shoulder in him.
I mean, Bijan gonna run over a lot of people. Henry To'oTo'o and Bijan Robinson. I'm gonna take Bijan all day long, man. That's easy pickings. If To'oTo'o is not kept clean or a guy who can get underneath blocks or by blocks, I don't want him. He's not a stack and shed guy. But if you get your hands on him, if O-line, guards, tackles, fullbacks, I know it's a thing of the past, or tight ends can get their hands on him clean, bro, might be a problem for him because I don't think he had the greatest of games. I'm not sure that he even bust a grape in this game. And then DeMarco Helms, the other safety, opposite of Jordan Battle, he flashed in this game as well. And then, yes, you had a couple of Texas defenders. DeMarvin Overshawn, he flashed. I think he's a linebacker. I think he had 5 solo tackles. He was out there doing it by himself. No, I'm just kidding. But defensively, I think that Texas played very well. And I think the atmosphere, I think I saw a quote on Twitter, I'm not sure where it was, where they're like, we've never heard anything like this. It was different. You know what I mean? Because Bama, I know you play in the SEC, you got the LSU, you got the Floridas, you got the Georgias and stuff, but that was different. That looked different. Everybody was awake. It's not a night game. It's not a middle of the day game. This is noon, baby. High noon. Let's get it.
Let's get it. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Roschon Johnson, the guy that backs up Bijan Robinson. Hadley thought he had a pretty good showing, so want to be sure to mention him as well. Let's move along to the Tennessee-Pittsburgh contest. And again, your overall thoughts on the game, and then we get into the prospects.
Watching this game, these teams are pretty much evenly matched, man. This is like one of those games where, it's an Outback Bowl, it's a Peach Bowl, where it's an SEC team going against an ACC team. They're evenly matched, and it was a good game. It was as advertised as a lot of these games were. And listen, Pittsburgh's defense, bro. How long they've been running? When they've had good
every year.
I mean,
every year.
Bro,
NFL caliber players
every single year. Could be anywhere on the field, man. And for these guys, it is their front four, or it might be like front six. I don't know what they got going on over there, but them boys, Kalijah Kancey, John Morgan. I know he didn't really show up on the stat sheet, but he was out there making plays, making things happen. And the one thing that Pittsburgh does very, very well, man, and Tennessee does it well too, is the boys run a lot of twist stunts, a lot of games up front. The difference between the two in terms of how they run that is that Pittsburgh will throw a blitz in there a little bit more often than Tennessee would. And the boys, it was kind of teeing off on Hooker back then, Hendon Hooker. But he hung in there and played well, man, because he found his guy, Cedric Tillman, wide receiver, 1,000 yards last year, 12 touchdowns. And he's well on his way this year, man. He dropped a couple passes, had a little concentration drop, so he probably should have had another touchdown. But I'm trying to get a comp for him. I need to watch a little bit more tape, but it's a big guy, and he was given the secondary of Pittsburgh. Trouble, man, big time.
Definitely. Who else stood out to you?
Byron Young, the edge for Tennessee, is a guy I've been watching since last year. He plays edge / outside linebacker, can drop back in coverage. Does it very well. He's very physical. Like he's not gonna let the Travis Kelce's just release. Nah, we're not doing that.
We uppercutting the tight ends before they get out into their route.
Every time they see number 6, they're like, damn, man, this guy's gonna touch me before anything happens, man. It's not gonna be nice. You know what I mean? Violent hands. And he's a hell of a pass rusher too, man. He had a couple of hurries, knockdowns, and I think he had a sack or so in that game. Kalijah Kancey doing his thing in terms of the interior guy. He's a smaller guy, but he's so quick. And he does a lot of things that you want from a D tackle, where he doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet, but he's allowing other people to eat. He's turning things back inside. He's a very fun watch. I'm interested to see where he ends up getting, not so much drafted in terms of his position, but just in terms of the team he plays for, because I think that's going to be very important for him.
Very, very. But before you move on, just to add on Kancey, I think you make a great point, and I want to kind of expand on that a little bit. Yeah. Often we have guys who, like for instance, in Kancey's case, looks like a 3 technique. Looks like he could be a really, really good rotational player, as a 3 technique and an even man front. You know what I mean? And then, of course, he lands somewhere and he's playing 5 technique.
Don't do that, bro. Come on.
But that's what happens. That's what happens. So to your point, it'll be really, really interesting to see ultimately where he lands. I don't expect him to necessarily, test out the gym. Perhaps he does. But I think he could be a really essential piece in a downline rotation. When you're trying to get about 8 deep along your defensive line, but to really hone in terms of what he's capable of, get him in a 3 technique, man. Let him get upfield, let him penetrate. Let's get away from the 2 gapping and trying to occupy blocks and all of that. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, guys get miscast, and then of course we don't get to see what they're truly capable at the next level, or even in college for that matter at times.
Yeah, and Baldonado is an edge. He's not the flashy, sexy, bendy guy. He's the power guy, kind of a Cameron Jordan from the Saints. Kind of remind you of him a little bit. He's not quite the
not to that level, but sure.
Right,
I hear
but
what you're
that
saying.
type of player. And then your running back, Israel, and I don't want to butcher his last name.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Ibikedi?
Abanikanda.
Abanikanda. We're gonna call him Abin, and then no, we're gonna call him Kanda. That's what I like. That Kanda. We're gonna go with Kanda. I think this guy, he's got something special. I don't want to call him. I don't say he is special, but he's got something special about him. His ability to press the hole and then make a slight movement to get to the next hole, or the hole next to that hole, and just be able to get that burst going up the field. It's just I don't know that there's a running back right now that does what he can do with the frequency. Because if you're able to press the hole and safeties are coming down and linebackers are coming down, you're going in that A gap, but you slide over to the B gap, they've already essentially committed to where they were going, and then you burst through the B gap. It's you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And he does it so consistently, man. So
right.
He's a guy to watch. And he's got a little power to him too.
I saw him last year. Of course, the focus was Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison in that offense a season ago, and I noticed him. He just a burst. Yep. To your point, you know what I mean? I think obviously the analysis that you provided just in terms of his ability to press the hole and force the defenders to commit, which then generates big plays because the gap integrity isn't necessarily there. Yep. I didn't pick that up because I didn't see, obviously I wasn't focusing on him, but I just noticed the burst. I noticed the physicality that he plays with, the contact balance, and now this year, considering him as a NFL draft prospect in the 2023 class, I started to see exactly what you're talking about. You know what I mean? There's a subtleness, there's a feel for the running back position that he has that I think will help him. Will certainly help him in terms of his stock, and I think his stock will continue to grow. Assuming they can kind of get some stabilize the quarterback play there at Pitt, I think his stock will continue to increase. All right, let's move on to the Florida Kentucky game. All right,
no, we can skip it.
No. We will not skip the Florida Kentucky game. Obviously, the whole New York Giants brass was there trying to figure out who their next quarterback's going to be. Brian Daboll, I don't think he's really a fan of Daniel Jones. So I think they were certainly there in full force trying to figure out who the guy might be. Neither quarterback, Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, were particularly impressive. But before we get into them and some other prospects that were in that primetime game, what did you think about that game?
I mean, as a Florida fan, it was disappointing. And like you said, I expected a little bit more from both quarterbacks, but it just wasn't what it was. I give Levis a little bit more leeway because the secondary of Florida is pretty good. And he's got a receiver out there. Everybody else is just kind of a guy out there in terms of the receiver position. And I think they had a really good game plan. Florida again decides, hey, we're just not going to cover the tight ends, and we'll rinse and repeat like we did the week before for whatever reason. And I know that their big thing is we want to key in on the run, and tight ends just forget about it. It was a good game plan by the offensive coordinator for Kentucky, but yeah, man, it's a little disappointing as a Florida fan. But as a football fan, especially the guy who won the $1.2 million, this was, I guess, the biggest. I would say it's the biggest game in terms of. It was the last game he needed to win.
Right on a parlay.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Right.
Good for him, man. Everybody ain't able.
Do you know what you put down?
I think it was like a good $25K or something like that.
Okay. All right.
I can't remember off the top of my head for certain, but it was a substantial amount. It was a substantial amount. I most certainly don't have it like that. So,
right.
So speaking of Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, I actually want to start with your boy Anthony Richardson. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, he lit the world on fire. He was being crowned the top quarterback in the class after a very impressive showing against Utah. Not so much last week. He struggled. He showed some of the inconsistency that you highlighted during some of your summer scouting, and where does he kind of fall? I think obviously we can get ahead of ourselves and the pendulum will swing to oh my God, he's the next coming of Vince Young, but he's so much better from a passing standpoint. To well, he's not necessarily a first round prospect. So there's a lot of volatility associated with Anthony Richardson, and we're seeing that in his play. The talent is certainly there, but the consistency hasn't been shown. That being said, he's a very young quarterback as far as starts are concerned, right? So what's your overall thought process in terms of this particular contest, and then your long-term projection associated with Anthony Richardson based on what you've seen thus far?
Yeah, I wonder if I saw on Twitter where they were saying he may have been injured. I don't know about that. He just didn't look right. His ability to be able to read the field, I think we might be back to the drawing board in terms of that. I think we're gonna have to hit the reset button. We have to look at some things, because one of the concerns that I had is that, and I don't know if anybody's picked it up, but he doesn't throw to his left, and you can't be a one side of the field quarterback. That's
let
not a thing.
Let alone a one read quarterback.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not a thing, man. So
yeah.
That's gonna have to improve, man, and that's something that's gonna be exposed very, very. If it hasn't already, teams figured it out. It's gonna be something that's gonna be exposed. He's gonna have to be able to throw to his left and do it consistently and accurately, and that's something that he hasn't done. He made a lot of the wrong reads. I don't think that Napier put the Gators in a position to succeed in certain situations in that game. But yeah, man, long-term projection though, man. Listen, man, he's a 3 times leverage stock, man. Volatility up and down all day long, man. It is what it's going to be. You just hope that that he continues to progress, and you see the maturation. I think it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, man, and I think that's just the way it's going to be. And Florida fan has to accept that. I saw people already jumping off of the bandwagon. And just like you said, man, the man had like 30, 40 dropbacks in his career before last week, man. Like, what are we talking about, bro?
Yeah. I think I'm on either side of the fence, right? You know what I mean? As far as the polarity, in terms of Anthony Richardson, I think that there's a certain network out there that decided to crown him. You know what I mean? And certainly the talent is there. The talent is there, but to your point, the production, the consistency hasn't been there. And I get it. The modern era and the emphasis placed on traits, he has them. He has them in spades. You understand what I'm saying? And you want to get that talent, and you want to get him with the proper coaching, and then you put the pieces around him, and then of course, light camera action, as you like to say, right? But in order to stake careers, because that's what this is about, right? At the end of the day, when we start talking about paid professionals, we're talking about careers. In order to stake your career on a guy that by season's end will have 12 to 13, 14 starts, you know what I mean? Maybe a little bit more than that. Let's call it 15 starts in his career. You know what I mean? That's tough. The last time we saw some of that, it's been a mixed bag, whether it be Mitchell Trubisky or Kyler Murray or what have you. It's been a mixed bag. So much has to go right regardless of whether or not, a quarterback has, a litany of starts, a litany of dropbacks, has a ton of experience, has kind of gone through the trials and tribulations of a young quarterback and maturing into the field general, the team leader, to just kind of drop a guy and again put a lot of expectations and of course, as Bill Parcells used to say, that it seemed like we broke out the anointment oils a little too soon. I use the term "we" loosely. I use it loosely, but in general, considering all the fuss that was made after the Utah contest, I think we have to temper our expectations and see the maturation of the young man. Let's talk about the other signal caller, Will Levis. Your thoughts on his performance?
Yeah, he got beat up a little bit. Again, I don't think this year is supposed to be a big test in terms of, he doesn't have what he has last year in terms of, Wandell Robinson and the team they had last year. So everything is more on his shoulders.
Right.
For Florida, I just think it was a good game plan. I think he executed it with what he was given, and he threw to the open guy. He was the better quarterback. He did miss some throws. But I mean, he was going against a pretty good Florida defense. But I don't think he played bad. But there's definitely some room for improvement for him, for sure.
All right, I just want to get Cavassier Smoke. I just want to make mention of my guy Cavassier Smoke. You know what I mean? The Kentucky running back with one of the best names I've heard thus far this season. Who else stood out for you in terms of draft eligible prospects for the 2023 class in this game?
Of course, Brenton Cox.
Definitely.
He showed out. I think that's his best game in a minute.
Helly calls him the real deal. The real deal.
Yeah, he's a Gator, Headley. You know that. But the guys that I thought would show out, and I was telling my brother, I was like, "Yo, these boys, good, bro. Like them linebackers for Kentucky, JJ Weaver, number 13, DeAndre. I called him DeAndre Baker last week, or Baker last week. I apologize.
Stoops always got some defensive players now. Stoops, stay with him.
And JJ Weaver's supposed to be the beast edge for them. DeAndre Squares is number 5. He's if I'm not mistaken, he's the middle linebacker, or maybe outside, I'm not sure. But he flashes. So he's a guy who get underneath blocks, and not a guy. He's not stacking and shedding, but he's going to make plays going downhill. Jacquez Jones and Jordan Wright, who I think he had he had double-digit tackles last week. I mean, the boys is all over the place, man, and they're a big part of that defense. They're the linchpin of that defense, man, big time.
All right, let's talk Baylor BYU. Baylor BYU. Your thoughts? I mean, obviously, we got to talk Jaren Hall, but in terms of the game, what'd you think?
It was as advertised. That was that wasn't that 2 a.m. football. That was that 10 p.m. football. But it was as advertised, man. Jaren Hall did his thing. I thought Baylor's defense would have played a little bit better than they did. I know they have, I think it's a sophomore quarterback. He looked pretty good. But that game was as advertised, and I'm glad Baylor came out on top, man. I'm trying to see Jaren Hall get some love, man, some real love, and get a push, man, because he's my number 2 quarterback.
No Puka Nacua, no Gunnar Romney, but of course Jaren Hall was very impressive.
Now they're throwing to them freshmen, bro.
Hey man, the ball placement, the precision that he played with.
Tell y'all, bro, y'all not listening.
Really impressive, and as Drew mentioned, that is his number 2 overall quarterback prospect in the 2023 class. Currently has him over CJ Stroud, coming in second with Bryce Young in the lead. Who else stood out to you in that particular contest?
Blake Freeland, the 6'7" left tackle monster that's protecting Jaren Hall. He's doing his thing. You got Clark Barrington, left guard, next to Blake Freeland. Them boys like to run the football, man.
Right.
And so, Blake Freeland, that's not his thing to be out there mauling folks, but he's going to seal guys off. And Clark Barrington got a little bit more nasty to his game. I don't want to call it nasty, but he's got a little bit more power. He's able to move people out of the hole. And then for Baylor, one key name is, I'm gonna butcher it, but I'm gonna try it anyways. Sakia Ika.
There you go.
D tackle.
We'll go with that for now. We'll get it right. Yeah. We'll get it right in the off season. Maybe.
Right, we'll get it. Hit us down in the comment section with the phonetics. Apologize, I heard butchering names. That's what we do here at CPGM. But
they call old Chris Winky.
Yo. But yeah, D tackle for Baylor. He's kind of the middleman for those guys, and Headley likens him to Vita Vea. I don't think he's quite has quite the playmaking ability.
Sure.
Or
Vea is probably a better athlete, right?
Yeah, definitely. But he causes similar chaos in the backfield, dislodging the line and just causing problems up front, right there in the middle of the BYU offensive line. But yeah, that's a name to continue to watch.
All right, and one more game that I'd like to talk about in terms of the prospects and again get your thoughts in terms of how that game played out on the West Coast, Pac-12, Stanford versus USC. Your thoughts on the game, and then I want to talk a little Caillou Blue Kelly, of course, Jordan Addison. Headley mentioned that he might have been the best receiver in last year's class.
Sure. People want to.
I mean, we're gonna give him space. We're gonna give him space to really get into that. It won't happen this particular week, but I just want to put it out there. there's some things. He's got some things about him that Haley really likes. So definitely looking forward to that. But your thoughts on that particular contest?
Yeah, I know people love the sexy, the flash that is USC, but their defense is awful. And if Stanford didn't turn the football over, if Emmitt Smith Jr., EJ didn't turn the football over, this might be a different football game. Now, I'm not saying Stanford wins the game,
right?
Because their defense really couldn't stop USC. Let's
sure.
be real.
Sure.
Be honest.
Too much Caleb Williams, too much Madison.
USC really didn't stop Stanford. Stanford stopped Stanford. You know what I'm saying? So I would have liked that game to have been a little bit closer. Maybe Stanford pulls it out because now it's a game that's, they can continue to run the football and kind of play it the way they want to play it versus being down 3, 4, 5 scores. And now you have to play catch up, right? So,
right.
But that game should have been as advertised, and it wasn't, unfortunately. But it was a nice game to watch. A bunch of prospects out there you got to key on. It's kind of sucks sometimes when you're watching the game and it's like 2 guys out there you're looking at versus
right.
a bunch of guys. Your eyes is going all over the place because you're trying to watch everybody.
That matchup between Caillou Blue Kelly, Brian Kelly's son, and Jordan Addison. What'd you think of it? Who came out on top?
I mean, Jordan Addison came out on top, man. Man had over 150 yards. He caught like a 60 or 70-yard bomb on Blue Kelly. Kelly, he waited to the last second to kind of turn and run. Even if they leave him, and that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? Then he didn't make the tackle. You know what I mean? But when he did get his hands on Jordan Addison, bro, it was a problem. Let me tell you, Addison was pretty much taken away. At one point, I seen him pancake him, put him to the ground, face in the dirt. You know what I mean? Treat him like a stepchild, man. I don't want to say stepchild. That ain't it. Give me something else, man. He treated him like a, I don't know, man. He didn't treat him too good, bro. He didn't treat him too good. But Addison is a special receiver. I know I was one of those guys I wanted to watch. I know he won the Blitnikoff Award. You know what I'm saying? I don't really see it. You know what I mean? I know he's a guy who go up and get the football. He's a guy who can turn good balls.
He might just be a slot guy. Maybe. Yep.
Nope. He's in the video game offense, and they know how to use him. Get him the ball in space. Put him in the slot. If you're gonna not put a hand on him at the snap, you're asking for trouble. That's all I'm gonna say. He's an easy mover. Dial it up, dial it up, dial it down. I mean, he's a fun watch. He's not as big as you would want him to be, but I'll take that when you can move as easy as he can move, man. And Blue Kelly is a big corner. He attacks the football, and he is a guy I'm going to continue to watch. He had his day last year versus Drake London. Yep. Or London Drake, excuse me. I say that backwards.
Drake London. London Drake. You always want to call him man London Drake. Man's name is Drake London, big Draco.
Listen, he can be Drake London Drake. He played for the Falcons, so he had a good game against those guys. And I think he'll probably fit better against bigger receivers. I think he can maybe even take on tight ends, to be honest with you. But I'll continue to watch, continue to write the notes up on him, and we'll see what he turns out to be. But he's a guy to watch for Stanford. Tanner McKee, quick release. He knows where he's going with the football. He is a quarterback to watch. I know he's a quarterback that Headley really, really likes, and I think that he's starting to grow on me. So I'm gonna stay up till 10 a.m. 2 in the morning to watch.
Got to. You got to catch. Got to, man. Once you start conditioning yourself for that Pac-12 after dark,
you got to condition yourself, bro.
You need it. You need it. You can't. You know what I mean. You don't. Your Saturdays are incomplete until you get a little nonsense going on the West Coast, man. Whether it be a Mountain West game, Pac-12, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like it's the last little bit of football that you're gonna get, at least in terms of the college game. You know what I mean? And you hold on to that, and you let that tide you over until Sundays. You know what I mean? So absolutely, I'm glad you've become effectively a degenerate when it comes to Pac-12 after dark games, man. It is what it is. It is what it is, man. You know what I mean? So definitely, let's move right along. I think that covers the games that we wanted to recap and the corresponding prospects, 2023 NFL draft prospects. Again, For those of you who are new to the channel, to the second half draft show, covering the 2023 NFL draft prospects of note throughout the season. Check us out at Couch Potato General Manager. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the like button for us. Definitely want to hear what you think about the show. Drew, you had a couple HBCU prospects that you wanted to highlight.
Yeah, I got Kendrell Flowers, running back from. First of all, we're going to continue to do this. This is a segment that I want to continue to push the HBCUs, make sure those guys get their love.
The recognition they deserve.
Right, yep. I'm going to keep doing it, and if we got to add more, we will. But we'll for right now we'll do two. And I got Kendrell Flowers, running back from South Carolina State. Let me just go ahead and grab these stats for y'all real quick. My man had 16 attempts for 153 yards. That's almost 10 yards a clip, with 2 touchdowns versus Bethune-Cookman. And then we have, let me make sure I say his name right because I like to butcher the names.
Quaterius Hawkins.
Quaterius Hawkins, quarterback for Grambling State. The week before when they played Arkansas State, they got mollywopped. I think they got a 50 burger dropped on them.
I ain't hear mollywop in a minute, man.
You know who's coaching them boys, right? Grambling State. You know who's coaching them boys. That's your favorite guy, bro.
Your boy Hugh.
Yeah, you know.
Your boy, that's your guy, man.
All right, okay. Love to be in the limelight, isn't it? But anyways, yeah. So
he'll be on Cameo, man. This guy's a character, bro.
He's a character.
He's definitely a character.
So that last week they had 3 quarterbacks, and the old adage is if you got 2, you got none. So if you got 3, you really don't have any.
Exactly.
And Hawkins, they said this is the guy we're gonna go with, and he showed out last week, and them numbers looked like 13 for 23, 293, and 3 touchdowns versus Northwestern State. So keep your eyes peeled for these HBCU guys. If I missed a guy or a guy you think we should be watching consistently, put their name down in the comment section, and we'll definitely put them on the docket.
Definitely. But before we move on to the Saturday slate, a handful of matchups we want to talk about and highlight some of those corresponding 2023 NFL draft prospects. A couple honorable mentions from last week. Muhammad Ibrahim, running back from Minnesota. He's healthy and he looks fantastic. We got Xavier Hutchinson, Iabi Anoma, Chase Brown, Sean Tucker, another back there from Syracuse. Very explosive player. You can see him down here in the bottom right. He's in the middle. There you go. There's Sean Tucker. And his teammate, Garrett Williams, a cornerback from Syracuse, very talented, long corner that I think obviously draft scouts and those individuals who obviously place an emphasis on traits are going to really like. Let's talk about matchups this weekend, and let's start with Georgia versus South Carolina.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a massacre. To be honest with you, I'm just, it is what it is. But
what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, these guys got, Christopher Smith, Jalen Carter, you got Nolan Smith. The list can go on and on.
Keely Ringo.
It's ridiculous, man. And listen, it's going to be a massacre. It's unfortunate, but it's going to be fun to see Spencer Rattler, who, he was one of the top quarterbacks last year for Oklahoma. Going into the season, and then the wheels on the bus just kind of fell off, and he transferred. Everybody transferred out of Oklahoma, but he transferred over to South Carolina, and you're looking to see, has he improved? Can he turn the corner? Can he be because he has the talent at the position, but he has that Bo Nix. Him and Bo Nix, they're kind of the same player. You're just waiting for them to do too much. Just doing too much, man. They just. Although the difference between those two is that Spencer Rattler actually will throw the football down the field, Bo Nix won't. But you got to be able to take care of the football at the quarterback position, man. And Spencer Rattler at times, man, he just like, man, I'm gonna throw it up there and see what happens. I'm gonna throw it into double, triple coverage and see what happens. You do that with Georgia, it's a wrap, and it's probably gonna happen. He's gonna get pressured, But again, if he goes out and he performs well, man, stock goes up. So it's got to watch. And then Cam Smith. Oh, go ahead. My bad.
No. There's definitely believers still out there in terms of Spencer Rattler's talent. There's definitely believers out there, and if he can string together a quality season, some consistency, some good games, and to your point, protect the football, he can help himself. He can help
Yeah.
himself. I don't know exactly how high he'll go, all things considered.
Right.
I think his star has diminished quite a bit. I don't think he's going to get to that lofty level again in terms of being a top 10 pick, top 15 pick. But certainly, he could turn some heads and find his way. And then at that point, once you're in camp, once you're on a roster, once you're getting some snaps and attrition, things happen, so on and so forth. Who knows? Who knows? The talent takes over. Who knows at that point? But he can help himself if he's able to string some quality games together, and it would do a lot for his stock to have a good showing. We don't expect South Carolina to come away with an upset here, but have a quality showing against a very, very stingy defense. Before you go on, we just need to talk a little bit more about Jalen Carter and how absolutely fantastic he is. He's I think people are talking about him like he may be the best interior defensive lineman prospect since Aaron Donald. And he might actually be rated higher than Donald because of just some of the physical tools he has. I think Donald obviously just as far as three techniques go, he's a prototype as far as I'm concerned. But Jalen Carter is special, man. We talked about who could potentially unseat Will
Right.
Anderson as a top prospect in the class.
Yep.
Not necessarily who would go first overall per se, but just in terms of the best player in the draft. And Jalen Carter is it's hard to deny. It's hard to deny what he's capable of, man.
Yeah, when you talk about him and you compare him, you're talking about not comparing him, but you're putting him in the same sentence as Aaron Donald, and you're saying potentially he could. I don't want to say you say he was better, but there may be a little bit more there when you unpack it all and you finally see everything that Jalen Carter can become. His ability to be the size that he is and to be able to disrupt not with just speed but with power and do it consistently and violently and it be funny because it's so violent.
Right.
And I mean, and how sometimes you watch players and you're like, that guy should not be able to do that.
Sure.
And he's just able to do it, man. Like it's just it's comical, man. And it's very possible he could unseat Will Anderson. We'll see though. We'll see.
Anybody else in this particular contest?
Cam Smith.
There you go.
Cornerback.
There you go.
Yeah,
I was waiting for you to get there.
My number one cornerback in this class has the size, has the speed, has the physicality you want from the position. Plays a bunch of man, a bunch of zone. He mixes it up. Plays both very well. I know he's going against some Georgia receivers that should be fun to watch. But that's a guy that you guys should key on. So he's my number one cornerback, man. Hit me down in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about him after you watch the game, or if you got notes on him already and you got a feeling on him. Hit me down in the comment section. Let's
Yeah, when you start talking about like some of the national pundits and whom they have, ranked particularly high at the cornerback position, Cam's, he's just not necessarily a guy that's mentioned typically, but like you said, the skill set is there, the traits are there.
Yep.
You go out here and you perform well on against an opponent. The magnitude of Georgia, that's what starts to turn people's heads. It's not necessarily a referendum on Cam Smith. It is simply eyeballs on the player. And then once you start getting that momentum and you're consistent with it, you have a tendency to fly up the board. His fellow alum in terms of my guy Horn, it was kind of the same thing. You saw how physical and how dominant he was, how he played against Devontae Smith, and you saw the consistency week to week, and that is what kind of springboarded him ahead of the Pat Surtains. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? As good as PS2 is, that's what kind of carried him. So he could have kind of a similar ascent potentially. Let's talk about Penn State versus Auburn and who you like in this game. I know. Of course, we've talked about Joey Porter Jr. previously, another quality cornerback in this draft class, long physical player. Who else? Who else among the prospects in that contest are you eager to see tomorrow?
Tank Bigsby, the running back for
Auburn.
Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Power running back. And a guy just get that man his touches, let him do his thing. We have Derek Hall, outside linebacker edge. He's kind of the moving piece within that defense. Can kind of do a little bit of everything. I'd like to see him come off the edge a little bit more, but he can drop back in coverage and cover the tight ends. You have Kobe Wooden, who is he's kind of the guy that he's the edge specialty guy. He's the guy that consistently comes off of the edge. So he's the guy to watch. You got Parker Washington, wide receiver, Penn State. Penn State always got that one guy.
Sure.
Receiver. Yep. 1 year it was Hamler, last year it was Dotson, and this year it's Parker Washington. I don't think he's to the caliber of those two guys,
right.
But I do like him. Let's see what he does, because Auburn usually has a cornerback or two, so it should be a good matchup there. Yeah.
All right, Miami, Florida versus the Texas A&M Aggies, and
can I show you nervous?
I wish no. Actually, I'm not nervous. I expect Miami needs to beat this team because Texas A&M hasn't looked good. I laid down. I'm gonna put it out there. I laid down. I wish I had the tweet readily available, but I thought it was hilarious. The Appalachian State Twitter account thanking Texas A&M for the $1.5 million that A&M paid them to beat them.
Ain't nothing like paying somebody to whoop your ass, bro. $2 million.
Listen, man. I mean that's a steep price for ass whooping. I like I said, I don't have it like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but there's some intriguing prospects in this game. Obviously, you have Tyler Van Dyke from Miami, Zion Nelson, the tackle. Consistency is the main thing with respect to Nelson. I'm really interested in seeing how Van Dyke plays in this game. Yeah. All right, Texas A&M has a quality defense. They have a veteran defense as well. Restrepo, Miami's top receiver, the slot, he's not going to play. I think he's hurt. So how they mitigate that, how they adjust is going to be really interesting to me. Of course, I am a unapologetic Miami fan, so I'm pulling for Miami, but I'm also really intrigued in terms of some of these prospects, including Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M.
Yeah, and Texas A&M got a couple of other guys. Devin, I'm a butcher's name. Chaney.
Let's call it a Kane. Let's call it a Kane for now.
Devin and Kane, hit us down in the comment section with the phonetics. Running back, he's kind of the all-purpose guy, can do a little special teams, catch out the backfield. You got Aeneas Smith, I think he's number 0, the wide receiver.
Aeneas
Smith. And you got Antonio Johnson, number 27, the nickel / safety / corner, whatever you want to call him. And then you have Damani Richardson,
his running mate. Yep,
running mate, the safety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun game to watch. I'm hoping Miami loses, but no, actually, I'm hoping they actually do win. I can care less about Texas A&M, but should be a fun watch. Should be a fun watch for sure.
Our guy Hadley's in the comment section, and he mentioned that A&M is going to be starting a new quarterback. So of course, their offense has kind of been stuck in first gear. So they're going with Brad Johnson's son, transfer from LSU.
Oh, that's where he went. I was wondering where he went.
Yeah, that's where he ended up. So we'll see. We'll see if the lefty can inject some life into that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Did we call him out? I think we did. I think we did. Okay, yes, we did. I just want to make sure that we spoke about Hadley's guy out of A&M and those jets that he has coming out of the backfield. LSU, the aforementioned LSU Tigers versus Mississippi State. Drew, what do you think about the prospects in this particular contest? Who do you have your eyes on?
Well, for Mississippi State, I got Will Rogers, the quarterback. I think he's in that Mike Leach offense. He runs it very efficiently. Quick, beautiful release. Guy who keeps his eyes down the field. I'm gonna be watching this game very close because when I watched his tape, I was like, man, can I really put him above this guy or this guy? Isn't that Mike Leach offense, but the spread offense? It is the air raid of the air raid offense. That it is what it is. So it's kind of like, can I do it? But you know what? It's a passing league. It is, he does everything right that you want from the position. Has some athletic ability to run if it's there. But that's not his thing. He's looking to actually get the ball down the field. I like Will Rogers a lot, man. I could see him sliding in my top 5 for quarterbacks, man. So I'm gonna put it out there right
Big
now.
fan of Will Rogers. Big fan. Jaron Hall, Will Rogers. I mean, you definitely.
I'm trying to be different,
it's not
bro.
Chalk. It's not chalk.
No, it's not chalk. I'm being different, man. I'm being different.
But
But these guys are doing the job, man. I'm watching the tape. They're doing the job, and I'm not gonna put a guy above another guy just because everybody likes that name and they've liked it since that guy was a freshman. You know what I mean? So
fair enough.
You got BJ Ojulari who did some things versus Florida State in that first game, that embarrassing loss. Quite embarrassing because it was terrible. But this is a guy who I said, is the most explosive edge player in this class. You know what I mean? I want to see that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this is a guy who can drop back into coverage. He plays that very well. But I want to see that this is a guy who needs to be consistently rushing the passer over and over. I just want to see him mature from that position to do it, to just show a couple more moves that I want to see. Has some nice hands. Has that speed to power that I like. I just want to see a little bit more from him going against this offense that is actually they actually run the ball a lot more in the Mississippi State offense. To be honest with you, Mike Leach he didn't believe in the run, but I think he's turning the corner there. And then you got Keyshawn Boutte. He could be wide receiver 1, but I think he's kind of fallen down a lot of boards.
Addison's coming. Addison's coming.
No, Addison's there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's there because when you talk about the red flags, you know what I'm saying, in terms of attitude and all that stuff, that stuff really hurts you because nobody wants that in their locker room, man. You gotta, when things ain't going right, you know what I'm saying? You can't be the guy down in the dumps talking crazy and scrubbing your Twitter and all this. Come on, bro. Like, come on. You don't want to catch a pass over the middle. You jog it like, no, I want to see you. Everybody's waiting for you to just ball. And your biggest problem is that you didn't stay healthy. Well, now you're healthy. So let's see lights, camera, action. I got my popcorn, bro. Let's get it.
And I don't think they have – I think they have decent quarterback play. I think Daniels can get the job done.
If they can block for him.
If they can – exactly. If they can keep him upright, absolutely. So he just needs to get his head in the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Stop lamenting if things don't go right. But it's also incumbent upon the play caller to get your best players touches. You know what I'm saying?
That's true too.
And there are some receivers, unfortunately, if they're not involved early, it's kind of easy to get them out of their game. Headspace becomes an issue. The concentration wanes, and then you get drops and poorly ran routes and stuff like that. It's not an excuse for the player, but ultimately you lost. You lost because it took you until the second half for him to make a play, make a catch. You know what I mean? That can't happen. That can't happen for a guy that we thought could go top of the first round in terms of receivers. Could be the top receiver off the board. That should not happen. All right. Next up, we have BYU versus Oregon, and don't want to spend a whole lot of time. We've talked about BYU extensively already. Oregon has some talent, of course, with Sewell and Flo and DJ Johnson, particularly on that defense. It'll be interesting to see how they match up against Jaron Hall. Again, I'm not sure if Jaron Hall is going to get all of his weapons back, but it'll be another good test for Jaron Hall. Before we get out of here, I want to talk Michigan State versus Washington. Let's talk about Michigan State versus Washington. I know there are a pair of pass rushers in this game that you really like.
Yeah, man. Is it Jacoby Wyndham? I want to make sure I don't butcher his name. Jacoby Wyndham, Michigan State edge player who has 5.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. You know what that screams? Playmaker. He got the playmaker badge on Madden. I don't know how to do it with Madden, with the icon, whatever they call it. He's a playmaker.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute since you've been on the Madden, huh?
It has been a minute.
I'm waiting for that college football though.
Yeah, I think everybody's waiting on that.
Next spring, man.
Let's go. Dynasty.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Might have to switch it up. Might have to join these young guns.
Hey, man.
These Thundercats.
Yo, listen. Thundercats. I like SWAT cats, but that's just me.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Why you want to age me? Leave me behind, aging me. You know what I'm saying? Talk about SWAT cats. SWAT cats was
that was it, bro.
Cartoon Network. Those were the days.
I wasn't a Thundercat guy, bro.
What?
Nah, I wasn't.
For the Omen?
Nope.
What?
Straight, bro.
Man, I don't even know, man. We might have to end the broadcast, man.
Yeah, I couldn't do it, bro. I was like, this ain't it. This ain't the card.
Say it.
My brother was good with it. I was like, it's trash, bro.
Oh man,
Yeah.
come on.
And the other pass rusher is Zion Tupela Fatui. I probably butchered his name. I just call him ZTF. He has not busted a grape in terms of statistical category, but I've watched some of his games, like he's played 10 this year. And he's close, man. He's close to. He's got a couple of hurries. He's getting there close, and he's coming off of an injury. Although the injury was last year, he came back quicker than you would have thought with the injury that he had. And I think that he's not a full-time player. I think that's maybe just the way they run their scheme.
Right.
But this is a guy who's got heavy, quick, spider-like snap hands, and he can drop into coverage, do that thing as well. But I want this guy rushing the passer, and I want him rushing the passer more consistently. And real quick, just in terms of that BYU-Oregon game, those two linebackers, Sewell and Flo, we're really going to see what them boys about because BYU runs the football. So
they want to get downhill. They want to get downhill on you. So, no, definitely. All right, that's going to do it for episode 2 of the second half draft show. Guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're so inclined. Drew, anything to add before we sign off?
I need everybody to share the video. Don't be selfish. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't do that, man. Your mama taught you better than that. Stop it.
Let you guys know in the coming weeks, we're going to get into our rankings. We're going to start breaking down these position groups. I think things are going to start to kind of, settle in, and we'll start to be able to really stack these players up. We alluded to it in terms of the receivers. Jordan Addison is our front runner currently. We'll see how the likes of a Kayshon Boutte, for example, where he falls within our top 5, our top 10, so on and so forth. Top 50 prospect rankings should be coming up in a couple of weeks. So be sure to check us out, 9:30 p.m. Eastern every Friday, the second half draft show. For Drew, this is Juice. We'll see you next time.